What's up, everyone? Welcome back to After the Storm. This is the Canes game review for game number 47 of the season, a 3-2 loss to the Florida Panthers. So before we really get into the intro of this game, there's not much to go over, but there's going to be some choice words at the end of this because I think it's deserved after the third consecutive performance that's lackluster against the Florida Panthers, and not only that, it's becoming a trend for this team as of late. So in introing the game, another test versus a top team in the Florida Panthers. Stepan scratched in favor of Kotkaniemi. I believe that happened in the Minnesota game. Didn't get a Canes game review in for that one. However, Freddie also in the net for this one. And early on in the first period, Freddie coming up big stop here on Jonathan Huberdeau. Pesce goes off for tripping. Florida to the power play, first team in the game to get a man advantage. He just comes up a little bit hurt with a blocked shot on this penalty kill. Carolina would kill it off, and Nietzsche would be fine. Didn't seem like he had any lingering issues for the rest of the game. Then a Shea point shot after the penalty kill ends up hurting Steven Lawrence. He is also fine. Doesn't look like he has any issues coming out of this game either. Eetu Luostarinen, he hits the post, the former Carolina Hurricane, almost with a goal early on in the first. And then what would transpire and cause a lot of the physicality we saw in this whole game early on, a bit of a blindside hit on Andrei Svechnikov along the boards. Svechnikov answers back with a bit of a dirty hit on his own, but Bennett kind of turns into this one at the last second. Again, it's one of those kind of plays where I want to see Svechnikov let up. I want to see Bennett not turn his back to that play, kind of drawing a call. Thankfully, nobody hurt on either play. Bit of a scrum ensues. Carolina ends up with a 5-on-3. Also, a little while later, Hornquist hits Svechnikov from behind, kind of shoves him towards an open door. I shouldn't say a sharp edge, but an edge, nonetheless, in the rig. We've seen the Max Pacioretty play from years and years and years ago. Stuff like that. That one kind of seems like it had some ill intent behind it from Patrick Hornquist. Again, not a player that we know to be the cleanest of players around the league either. I doubt it gets even looked at by the league, but here is a play you just don't want to see. On the 5-on-3, as we go back to that, Bobrovsky coming up big for Florida. Florida kills it off. Niederreiter takes a slashing penalty. Florida back to the power play. Carolina kills it off. Again, the penalty kill rather, just working to perfection at the moment. And in the dying seconds of the first period, Teuvo Teravainen in a turn and fire quickly onto Bobrovsky. He doesn't even have time to react. It hits his stick, goes through his 5-hole off the far side post as well. Carolina has a 1-0 lead heading into the first intermission. Early on in the second, a huge play here, and probably one of the best individual efforts to save not from a goalie in the league this season. A bouncing puck, a mad scramble. Lawrence with a bat out of the air, he double hits it, but the big one is Gabriel Carlsson, who slides in behind and saves a puck about to go over the goal line with his own stick as he slides into the crease behind Sergei Bobrovsky. Physicality continues. Mason Marchment, former Coburg Cougar, hometown. He comes across, catches Vincent Trocheck with a clean hit, and I want to emphasize clean here. Chest is the point of contact. He doesn't extend through the head. Honestly, Trocheck just got crushed on this play. Quite possibly one of the most devastating clean checks of the season that I've seen anywhere around the league. Trocheck ends up, I'm not sure if he just started skating around without his bucket on, or just didn't know he had lost his helmet on the play, but he ends up getting a penalty that's new to the league and being enforced this season. Is broken stick, can't play the puck, helmet gets knocked off, you have to go to the bench. Florida with their third power play early on in the second period, and kind of due to that being maybe a bit of a weak call, the refs do a makeup call. Not that I'd like to see this by any stretch, but Duclair throws a check on Teravainen. There's no penalty on this play. Duclair gets called, and we're just go to some 4-on-4 hockey. Carolina ends up with a short power play at the end that obviously gets killed off. I think it was only about 6 or 8 seconds long. And we're back to 5-on-5. Ian Cole takes a penalty, dab the bingo card because that's the free space in the middle of it. This guy has taken so many penalties this year. He's going to be a talking point in this video as well. Florida to their 4th power play. They get a couple chances on this one, but Carolina kills it off. Alexander Barkov, the captain of the Florida Panthers, with a beautiful move against Brady Shea. 1-on-1, slides the backhand through Frederik Andersen. This guy is just amazing that you can't really put this one on Freddie. I'm sure he would like it back. But man, Alexander Barkov is 22nd of the season. We got an even game. And this is going to be a bit of a talking point for a little bit later on. But at this point of the game, this is when Florida made the adjustments. And I think of any team that the Canes have played, of any team potentially in the NHL this year, the team that is best at adjusting to the team they are playing against is the Florida Panthers. Shortly after the Barkov goal, Ian Cole, and I don't care, I saw this argued so friggin' much on Twitter by a certain account that is apparently speaks for all fans and writes articles and publishes articles and is verified. No, this isn't just a case of Ryan Longberg being shorter than Ian Cole. Ian Cole cross-checked him in the face. And again, I've brought this up in previous videos. We're going to get to Ian Cole at the end. This is another one where I'm just absolutely in shock that this guy continues to be in the lineup. Florida to their 5th power play. Carolina kills it off. If this team had even an average penalty kill, this game would have been a friggin' wash. Mason Marchment takes a hooking penalty. Carolina to their 4th power play of the game in a penalty fest here. Barkov with a shorthanded chance. Freddie, a huge save on him to keep the game tied. Florida kills off the penalty, and we head to the end of the 2nd period. It is still 1-1. Kicking off the 3rd period early on, Tony DeAngelo, a point shot, it finds its way off of a defender in front. I think it was Gustav Forsling, and past Sergei Bobrovsky. Carolina leads 2-1. Pesce and Svechnikov with a 2-on-1 chance shortly after. Pesce gets the shot, but Bobrovsky makes the save look very easy. Frederik Andersen with a big save on a guy who has had his number so far this year, Anthony Duclair, shortly after that one too. Brandon Montour skates onto a puck. Lots of speed from Brandon Montour here. Winds up one-timer, hits the post. Freddie standing tall towards the end of the game as well. Makes a nice redirect save. Made it look real easy too. Bobrovsky pulled with 2:20 left in the 3rd. With about 48 seconds left, a Uyghur point shot. A rebound for Sam Reinhart. He buries it. We are tied 2-2 with just 48 seconds to go. Carolina now has blown a lead. And a period where they managed about 2 shots in the entirety of it all. Somehow scored at the beginning of the period. But honestly, not a good period here from Carolina. And that's the end of regulation. We head to overtime 2-2. And as ESPN was gushing over the fact, and rightfully so, that Jack Eichel was playing his first game as a Vegas Golden Knight and showing picture-in-picture, Aaron Ekblad gets a breakaway and scores to win the game. Now, first off, I get it. I get it. But just go to the damn broadcast. Go to the game that you're doing, ESPN. Don't do a stupid back to the studio picture-in-picture thing. Just go to the thing, put a little bit of a picture in the bottom right-hand corner, right about here, and let the friggin' game be seen. It's 3-on-3 overtime. It's the most exciting 5 minutes potentially in the sport. So anyways, Ekblad, breakaway, buries it, backhander past Frederik Andersen. Can't blame Freddie on this one again. He was excellent in this game. So the good players in this one, I had Aho, who I thought had a really strong game here, and of course Frederik Andersen, who was exactly what the team needed, but just did not deliver in front of in this one. An average player I thought was Brady Shea. I just didn't think he had a strong game. Gets walked on the Barkov goal. Not that I'm expecting him to really be able to stop Alexander Barkov, but just thought it was one of his weaker games of the season. And bad, Ian Cole. Yeah, we're going to talk about Ian Cole a bit here. I don't know how this team is potentially going to go into the trade deadline this year and trade Ethan Bear over Ian Cole. And, okay, there's a lot of stuff to go on about this. So let's first just get into the penalties and you know, I'm going to rehash this a little bit. The Carolina Hurricanes did not sign Ian Cole to be a Game 47 defender. And that simply means he is a playoff acquisition. He's always been a playoff acquisition. But the issue is when you get to playoffs, and even if penalties are not called as much or the players can get away with a little bit more, at a certain point, Ian Cole's style of play and the way he's playing is going to cost this team. And Ian Cole this season alone almost has as many penalty minutes as he did in his previous 117 games. That's pretty freaking staggering. His previous 117 games, though he played for a few teams in the midst of that, just didn't take penalties. So what's going on here, and why is he taking penalties within this system? And at a certain point, why isn't a guy like Brendan Smith coming in to replace that, who doesn't take as many penalties and arguably is just as effective? At game 47, does this matter? No, not really. But the problem is, this is now becoming a defining feature of his game, and he's taking so many penalties, and he's more penalized than some of the biggest or the most penalized defensemen in the league this year. How long do you keep going with this? How long do you still look at Ethan Bear and think he's the one that's got to go out the door at this at this trade deadline? I don't get it. At this point, I don't see the appeal of having Ian Cole in this lineup until he fixes his injury or his penalty problem. I don't want to say injury problems. Not wishing that out into the universe. But his penalty issues are so big right now that it's a negative pull on the team. And like I made the comment earlier in the video, dab the bingo card. It's the free space on the bingo card every single game. It used to be Svechnikov with a stick infraction, by the way, but he's shored that up within a year. He's taken way less penalties this year. But Ian Cole this year is taking a ton of penalties, and it's putting the team. You can't just rely on a strength all the time. At a certain point, the law of averages is going to swing back, and the penalty kill is going to be worse than it was before. So look, I tweeted it out last night. If you can swing it somehow, if there's a deal to be made, I know Carolina has interest in John Klingberg at the trade deadline this year. I know they probably have looked at Hampus Lindholm. Jeff Petry's on the market. Ben Sherratt's on the market. If you can manage to get Ian Cole out in a trade as a roster move, I'm assuming some teams are going to need a player-for-player type of swap, along with some picks or some prospects or whatever the case may be. It might need to be Ian Cole. My personal preference is Hampus Lindholm, likely as a pure rental, but I don't know if that will ever come to fruition because Carolina doesn't really like to do rentals and all that stuff. This is just one part of this whole thing. This is a cause for concern. Florida player I'm just going to highlight Barkov. He was tremendous in this game. So really, in wrapping this one up, let's start talking about what the worrying trends around this team. Not only Ian Cole's penalties, but the fact that a lot of these big test games the Canes continue to fall short on. Let's just talk about Florida for a sec. The first game, they absolutely got obliterated. They did not show up. The second matchup of the season, 3-2 overtime loss, or 4-3 overtime loss. I cannot remember off the top of my head right now. But even I can recall out of that game feeling the same level of disappointment of having a contending team that you're matched up against that you probably will have to go through at some point if you want to win the Stanley Cup, and the team just not delivering. And here was the same thing again. Florida, as I mentioned earlier in the video, an incredible team of making adjustments. They do it, in my opinion, better than any team in the NHL. They really let you play for that first period. They keep it close. And then as soon as they just figure it out, they lock their jaws in and it's over, man. Like, this is a team that is a legitimate Stanley Cup contender, and I don't think they're getting talked about enough. And that's not to say the Canes aren't either. They absolutely are. But again, it's starting to get worrisome at this point. You don't need to be full-on worried. I would say you don't have... This guy is not falling in Carolina. This record is still amazing, and this team is still playing very good. But when they get matched up against, last week, Toronto didn't deliver. So look, that's the synopsis of it all is we're starting to see some worrying trends. And whether or not that's the Canes coming back down to earth or they're just going to start playing, come back a little bit, they got to be better. So this leads me to the same issue I had last season, I should say. Not adding at the trade deadline this year would be a colossal failure. Not only has the team earned the right to have some star power added, a rental, seriously, I know they don't like doing rentals, but you got to try to do a rental or something here. That's how teams win, man. It really, really, really is. Standing pat at this deadline and not doing anything would just be a disaster. And last year, it really wasn't good. the Fleury trade last year sucked, and Yanni Hakanpää sucked, and it wasn't good. And I don't even recall if they did another trade that whole day, because the only one I can think of right now is Yanni Hakanpää. But it wasn't enough, and we saw that in the first round series. I've mentioned this a few times so far this season. They nearly lost to the Nashville Predators, and the Nashville Predators broke them enough in the first round that they were not going to be able to compete with Tampa Bay in the second. So again, this is something to keep an eye on. Sky's not falling yet, but you got to keep an eye on it right now, because we're starting to see some worrying trends, and we got to hope that this is something they iron out very, very quick. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked today's video, give it a thumbs up down below. Hit that subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber to After the Storm. Hit the notification bell beside it as well. You'll get these videos as soon as they upload. And as always, guys, I will catch you on the next one.